All right, let's dive in. Today, we're looking at a single phrase from the book of Revelation that has sparked so much debate and mystery over the centuries. We're going to unpack one specific, and you might find pretty surprising interpretation of it.
Here it is. It's from the letter to the church in Pergamum. The line reads, I know where you live, where Satan has his throne. I mean, wow, it's such a powerful, almost shocking image, right? It just hangs in the air and makes you ask.
What exactly is this seat? Are we talking about a literal physical chair in some ancient city? Or is this pointing to something way more symbolic, something deeper? That's the big question we're going to explore. So, let's get into the heart of this interpretation. You're about to see how it completely shifts the focus from a place on a map to a state of the heart. Okay, so the main argument from the source we're looking at is this. Satan's seat is not a physical object, not at all. It's a metaphor. It represents a spiritual stronghold, a condition where evil ideas are given influence and authority, often right where you least expect them. Now, to really understand this perspective, it helps to see it side by side with the more traditional view. Let's compare the two. So, on one hand, you've got the common historical take. A lot of people believe Satan's seat refers to a real place in ancient Pergamum, maybe the great altar of Zeus, or something to do with emperor worship there. But the source we're examining, it says something different. It argues the seat is actually a spiritual problem inside a religious system, where bad ideas and false teachings are given a seat at the table, so to speak. And to back this up, the source dives into the original Greek, thronon satana. The idea is that thronon is less about a piece of furniture and more about a position of authority, a stronghold. They even offer this pretty jarring translation, you gave Satan a place to rest. Think about that. It implies that wasn't a hostile takeover, but an invitation, allowing something harmful to get comfortable. But the verse isn't just about the throne. It also introduces a hero, Antipas, my faithful martyr, who was slain among you, where Satan dwelleth. From this viewpoint, Antipas isn't just some guy who died. No, he's a powerful symbol of what it means to resist. And this is where the interpretation really takes a sharp turn. It asks a crucial question. Where exactly was Antipas killed? The source argues that Satan's dwelling wasn't the pagan, secular world of Rome. Instead, it was the corrupted religious establishment of the day, the old temple system in Jerusalem. Now that's a huge claim, right? So where's the evidence? Well, the source points directly to Jesus' own words. Remember this lament over Jerusalem? He frames the city's own religious leadership as the ones who consistently rejected and even killed the messengers God sent. According to this view, that was the real dwelling of Satan. And this all connects to how we understand the word martyr. The Greek is marsis. And yeah, it absolutely can mean someone who physically dies for their faith. But this interpretation expands on that. It says a martyr can also be anyone who daily lays down their own ego, their own agenda, to stand up for the truth against lies, especially within their own community. Okay, so this isn't just some interesting history lesson. The source uses this entire line of reasoning to deliver a really direct and potent warning for us today. And it has everything to do with being nostalgic for the good old days of religion. And they don't pull any punches. The interpretation is that any kind of romanticizing of the Old Covenant temple, any longing to go back to that, isn't just a mistake. It's called an abomination. That is incredibly strong language. So, what's the logic behind it? The warning is rooted in this verse from the book of Hebrews. The author there argues that the new covenant established by Christ has made the old one obsolete. So in this view, trying to go back to something that's ready to vanish away is like choosing to walk backward into the shadows when the light is ahead of you. So to spell it out, according to this interpretation, longing for that old temple system is a massive theological problem. First, it's seen as an insult to the work of Jesus, as if his sacrifice wasn't quite enough. Second, it rejects the idea that his sacrifice was the final, once-and-for-all event. And maybe most provocatively, it means you're longing for the very religious system that, in this view, ultimately rejected and crucified the Messiah. Okay, so that was a deep dive into a very challenging interpretation. So what are the big takeaways? What are the main lessons this source wants us to walk away with? It really boils down to 5 key points. First, the most dangerous spiritual opposition can actually hide within religious structures themselves. Second, that your faithfulness, especially when you're pushing against the popular tide like Antipas, matters more than you know. Third, Christ sees his witnesses and he empowers them. Fourth, a reminder that the ultimate victory is already won. And finally, that really stark warning we just talked about. Be very careful about nostalgia for old, obsolete systems that Christ has already fulfilled. And all of this brings us to one final, lingering thought. The whole interpretation hangs on this really challenging idea that a seed of Satan isn't necessarily out there in the world, but can be a place of influence given inside a community of faith. And that leaves us with a question to really wrestle with. If spiritual opposition can hide in religion, what does that mean for us today?